trouble might be brewing beneath the surface of Yellowstone National Park.
Supervolcano that is a continent killer. Ground opens up and hell starts pouring out.
And it's got everyone worried. Lately, a series of small earthquakes and a strange rise in the ground have sparked fears of a massive supervolcano waking up. Known for its stunning scenery and natural wonders, with all this unsettling activity, one has to ask, what's really happening under Yellowstone? Join us to expose what these ominous signs could mean for us all. Yellowstone's awakening. Beneath Yellowstone's peaceful surface, powerful forces are at work. These natural phenomena have been shaping the park's unique landscape for ages. As we examine the recent earthquakes, let's also explore Yellowstone's rich history and its stunning geological features, which have always fascinated people. Before Yellowstone became a national park, it was home to Native American tribes like the Crow, Shoshone, and Blackfoot. These tribes had a deep connection with the land and used its geothermal features for cooking and medicine. Their knowledge and respect for the area's natural power were profound. European Americans didn't start exploring Yellowstone until the early 19th century. The famous Lewis and Clark expedition from 1804 to 1806 didn't directly explore Yellowstone, but sparked interest in the American West. Their journey led to future expeditions that would uncover Yellowstone's wonders. In 1869, the Cook-Peterson expedition was the first to document Yellowstone's beauty for the world. They captured the stunning geysers and hot springs, revealing the park's unique landscape. This was just the beginning. In 1872, President Ulysses S. Grant signed the act that made Yellowstone the world's first national park. This decision was aimed at preserving its unique geological and ecological features for future generations. So what makes Yellowstone so special? Yellowstone is a geological treasure with some of the most extraordinary geothermal features on Earth. It's famous for its geysers, hot springs, and wild landscapes. Old Faithful, the most well-known geyser, erupts regularly, amazing visitors with its powerful spray of water every 60 to 90 minutes. The park has about 10,000 thermal features, including the colorful Grand Prismatic Spring. These hot springs and geysers are surface signs of the immense geothermal energy below. Underneath Yellowstone lies the Yellowstone caldera, one of the largest active volcanic systems in the world. This supervolcano has erupted 3 times in the last 2.1 million years, each time with enormous force. The challenges of Yellowstone didn't stop with its formation. The interaction between its geothermal energy and volcanic history continues to shape its future. Yellowstone National Park is a place full of natural wonders and scientific mysteries. Its geothermal features and the tectonic forces below the surface make it a fascinating area for researchers. By studying Yellowstone's geological activity, we learn about the powerful forces that shape our planet and our place in the natural world. Recently, there has been a noticeable increase in earthquakes at Yellowstone. This has caught the attention of both scientists and the public. The big question is, what's going on beneath Yellowstone? Known for its geothermal activity, the park has seen hundreds of small earthquakes in just a few months. This pattern is unusual and has experts concerned. Yellowstone's seismic puzzle, more than just quakes. Yellowstone typically experiences 1,500 and 2,500 earthquakes yearly, most too small for humans to feel. Some years, like 2017, have had even more activity. For example, the Maple Creek swarm in 2017 lasted several months and produced over 2,475 earthquakes. This showed just how active and unpredictable the park can be. Scientists think the recent increase in earthquakes could signal something bigger. To find out, they use a variety of monitoring tools. The United States Geological Survey, USGS, and the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory have set up a comprehensive system throughout the park. This includes seismographs, which are sensitive instruments that measure the Earth's vibrations. They capture even the smallest tremors, helping scientists understand the frequency and intensity of the earthquakes. In addition to seismographs, there are GPS stations around Yellowstone that track tiny movements in the Earth's crust. By analyzing this GPS data over time, scientists can see if areas are rising, sinking, or moving sideways. This information helps them understand the forces at work beneath the park and predict possible volcanic activity. Satellites with advanced sensors take detailed pictures of Yellowstone's landscape. These images, combined with ground measurements, give a complete view of the geological processes happening in the park. Recent data shows that earthquake swarms are happening in specific areas like the Norris Geyser Basin and Yellowstone Lake. These spots are known for their geothermal activity, suggesting a link between the earthquakes and the movement of magma beneath the surface. Predicting and understanding seismic activity in Yellowstone is complex and requires constant monitoring and advanced technology. Teams from USGS and YVO are always analyzing data, looking for patterns that might indicate an upcoming event. Even with advanced monitoring technology, predicting when and where an earthquake or volcanic eruption will happen is still tough. Earth's processes are very complex and often unpredictable. This is especially true for the Yellowstone volcano, which might be close to a massive eruption. Recently, there's been a worrying increase in seismic activity in the area, showing that significant changes are happening under the park. Teams from the USGS and the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory are keeping a close watch on these developments. There's also been a rapid rise in ground elevation, forming a dome-like shape at Yellowstone. This suggests that major geological shifts are happening underground. Advanced satellite images and precise ground-based GPS systems confirm that in some parts of Yellowstone, the ground is rising alarmingly fast, several centimeters per year in some places, which is quite significant in geological terms. This dome-shaped elevation indicates that magma is moving closer to the surface, building pressure and causing the ground above to bulge. The large magma chamber beneath Yellowstone is showing signs of activity that could lead to significant changes in the Earth's crust. The rapid expansion of this elevation is particularly interesting because such changes usually take much longer to happen. The increased magmatic activity below the surface could signal a significant volcanic event. While it's impossible to know for sure when this might happen, the signs clearly show more activity underground. Beyond the immediate geological implications, this dome-shaped uplift is a powerful reminder of the immense forces at play beneath Yellowstone, a supervolcano that has erupted massively in the past, with the last one about 640,000 years ago, which dramatically changed the Earth's landscape. Now we see the signs that something big might be stirring. Yellowstone's warning. The recent rise might be an early warning that the magma chamber is becoming active again. However, understanding these signals is very challenging because the Earth's crust is a dynamic and complex system. The uplifts suggest more magmatic activity, but don't necessarily mean an eruption is about to happen. Scientists are looking at multiple factors, including the elevation rate, the magma composition, and historical patterns of volcanic activity, to figure out what this could mean for the region and the future of Yellowstone. As monitoring and research continue, understanding the potential risks and preparing for any future events are essential. Amid these discoveries, an important question arises. How ready are we to face the potential consequences of such geological changes? The answers lie in the ongoing efforts of scientists and researchers dedicated to unraveling the complex dynamics of Yellowstone. Meanwhile, an interesting phenomenon is also happening with the wildlife in the park. Animals like bison, elk, deer, and birds are showing unusual behaviors, straying from their usual migration patterns, adding another layer of complexity to the Yellowstone mystery. In Yellowstone Park, elk and deer, usually found in the park's center, have been moving in unusual ways. They are going into areas they usually avoid. Even birds are flying oddly and leaving their usual spots. These behaviors are not random. They show that something important is happening in Yellowstone. Animals are like nature's early warning system. They can sense environmental changes that humans often miss. Their heightened sensitivity has been documented throughout history and helps them survive. These changes in behavior could be warning us about a geological event, like seismic shifts or geothermal activity, which animals often sense first. For example, animals can detect underground tremors and gas emissions before humans can. When they sense these changes, they often flee or change their habits to stay safe. This instinct has been seen in many species around the world, especially in areas prone to natural disasters, Historically, animals acting strangely have often signaled big events. Indigenous tribes in the Yellowstone area, like the Shoshone and Blackfeet, have passed down stories of animals fleeing before eruptions and earthquakes. These stories show a deep connection between animal behavior and environmental changes. Before the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens, wildlife in the area started acting strangely. Deer and elk moved to lower elevations, and birds changed their flight patterns. Later, these behaviors were understood as responses to the brewing geological activity. Now, similar behaviors in Yellowstone suggest that the animals might be sensing something we don't fully understand yet. While it's hard to predict geological events with certainty, unusual animal behaviors suggest something is wrong. Recent seismic activity and changes in the land support the idea that Yellowstone's geological system is becoming more active. The animals might be sensing an imminent eruption or another significant event. But this isn't the worst part. Scientists are closely monitoring the situation, paying attention to these natural warning systems. By studying these animal patterns, researchers hope to understand what might be coming next. The idea of a Yellowstone supervolcano eruption is enough to scare anyone. Understanding the potential of such a rare event and its consequences is crucial. A possible eruption of the Yellowstone supervolcano would be catastrophic. The initial explosion would trigger fast-moving streams of hot gas and volcanic material called pyroclastic flows that could destroy everything within 40 miles. These flows can move at speeds of up to 450 miles per hour and reach temperatures of around 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. But the immediate destruction is just the beginning of the eruption. Next, we consider the scary outcomes if Yellowstone were to erupt. Beneath the ash. When a supervolcano like Yellowstone erupts, it throws huge amounts of ash high into the sky. The wind spreads this ash across entire continents. Cities far away, like Denver, Salt Lake City, New York, and Los Angeles, could find themselves covered in volcanic ash. This ash isn't just annoying, it's rough, acidic, and poisonous. It can pollute water and make farming almost impossible for years. When a volcano erupts, it doesn't just hurt people's health, it can also change the weather around the whole world. The volcano spits out ash and gases like sulfur dioxide, which turns into sulfuric acid high up in the air. This sulfuric acid can bounce sunlight back into space, making the Earth cooler. If a really big volcano, called a supervolcano, erupts, it could lower the Earth's temperature by 9 to 18 degrees Fahrenheit. This big drop in temperature might even lead to what scientists call a volcanic winter. This big change in climate could ruin crops, leading to food shortages and even famine. On top of that, the eruption would release a lot of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. These gases could cause long-term climate changes after the initial cooling effect ends. The environment would face global disruptions in weather patterns, affecting ecosystems far beyond Yellowstone. But it gets worse. Yellowstone has erupted 3 times in the past 2.1 million years, each time with devastating effects. The last eruption, around 640,000 years ago, released over 1,000 cubic kilometers of volcanic material, more than 1,000 times the amount from Mount St. Helens in 1980. These massive eruptions reshaped the landscape, forming the huge Yellowstone caldera, which is 30 to 45 miles wide. The long-term impacts of these past eruptions were huge. Ash and gases caused global temperatures to drop, affecting climates around the world. These eruptions were much bigger than most other volcanic events in history, even dwarfing the famous eruption of Mount Vesuvius in AD 79, which buried Pompeii and Herculaneum. But there's more to worry about. Recently, changes in Yellowstone's geology and seismic activity have raised concerns about another massive eruption. While it's unlikely to happen soon, the potential consequences are so severe that scientists and officials must stay alert. Aside from volcanic threats, Yellowstone recently faced another challenge: severe flooding. Heavy rains and rapid snowmelt caused significant flooding, damaging the park's infrastructure and raising questions about its impact on geological activity. The flooding forced the entire park to close. Helicopter footage showed rivers overflowing, flooding roads, bridges, and facilities, and trapping visitors and staff. The Montana National Guard quickly responded, rescuing nearly 90 people and ensuring their safety, highlighting the heroic efforts to protect everyone involved. The problems in Yellowstone didn't stop after the floods. The damage was huge, hitting key infrastructure that now needs serious repair and rebuilding. Roads were wiped out and bridges collapsed, leaving much of the park in bad shape. Fixing all this will take a lot of time and resources, affecting park operations and visitor access for months. But that's not the worst part. Beyond the visible damage, there are now interesting questions about how the floods might change Yellowstone's geological activity. The floodwaters could seep into the ground, affecting the park's geothermal and seismic systems. This sudden increase in groundwater could change the pressure dynamics within the geothermal system. As water reaches deeper layers, it might interact with the hot rocks and magma, possibly changing the behavior of geysers, hot springs, and other thermal features. Finally, we dig into the science trying to solve Yellowstone's underground mysteries, the quest for geological insights. For example, the Norris Geyser Basin, known for its active geothermal features, could see changes in water levels and pressure. This might lead to more frequent or stronger geyser eruptions and impact the temperature and chemistry of the hot springs. Scientists are closely watching these areas to understand how the floods might change their behavior. Additionally, the extra weight of the floodwaters could impact seismic activity. The added mass may put more stress on fault lines, possibly causing small earthquakes. While these quakes are usually minor, they provide valuable insights into the underground dynamics of Yellowstone. Researchers are using seismographs and other tools to detect and analyze these changes, hoping to learn more about how water and the Earth's crust interact. As we understand more about the flooding's effects, it's clear that Yellowstone's geological and environmental systems are interconnected. Changes in one area can have big impacts on others. Recently, unusual activity in Yellowstone has caught the attention of geologists. Experts are keeping a close eye on the situation, sharing their thoughts and concerns about what might be happening under the park. But what do these experts think? Could their observations help us prevent future problems? Dr. Mike Poland, who leads the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory, says the recent increase in seismic activity and rapid land elevation are significant but not entirely unexpected. He explains that Yellowstone is always changing, and such events are part of its natural behavior. However, the scale and speed of the current changes are unusual and need careful study. Dr. Poland stresses that these changes don't necessarily mean an eruption is coming. The Yellowstone team is still analyzing the data to understand what's happening. Dr. Lisa Morgan, a well-known geophysicist, also highlights the importance of advanced monitoring systems that give real-time data on seismic activity, ground movement, and gas emissions. These tools are crucial for detecting early signs of possible volcanic activity. She notes that using satellite imagery and ground-based GPS has greatly improved our ability to track geological changes with high precision. One key part of being prepared is having clear evacuation plans. Detailed evacuation routes are made, and emergency response teams are trained to act fast in a crisis. These plans are regularly updated based on the latest data from simulations to make sure they stay effective. Drills and exercises are done to test these plans, involving local communities and emergency services to ensure everyone knows their role and can act quickly. Another important part of being prepared is public awareness and education. It's vital for residents and visitors to Yellowstone to understand the risks and know how to stay safe. Public information campaigns are run regularly to provide essential information on what to do in case of an earthquake or volcanic eruption. These campaigns use various media, like social media, local news, and informational brochures to reach a wide audience. For visitors to Yellowstone National Park, clear guidelines and safety information are provided when they enter the park. Visitors get brochures detailing the risks and steps to take in an emergency, and park rangers are trained to educate visitors and ensure they follow safety protocols.
Yellowstone's seismic surge. Yellowstone, usually calm and serene, has recently been shaken by hundreds of earthquakes. This sudden increase in seismic activity has created chaos, with scientists and officials deeply concerned. Over the past few weeks, Yellowstone has experienced hundreds of tremors, making people worry about a possible major volcanic eruption. The increase in seismic activity started in early June with a series of minor earthquakes, which seemed normal for Yellowstone, known for its geothermal activity. But things got worse quickly. By mid-June, the park was experiencing dozens of tremors daily, some strong enough to be felt by visitors and staff. On June 20th, the situation hit a critical point with a 4.6 magnitude earthquake near the park's western edge, the largest in over a decade. This quake caused several aftershocks, further destabilizing the area around Yellowstone's volcano. But this wasn't the worst part. The continuous tremors raised the alarm to a new level. In response to this unprecedented seismic activity, President Biden held an emergency meeting with top officials from the Department of the Interior and the National Park Service. After reviewing the data and talking with leading geologists and seismologists, they decided to close Yellowstone National Park indefinitely. The immediate impact of the closure has been significant. Yellowstone is one of the most visited national parks in the United States, drawing millions of tourists each year. The sudden closure has left many visitors stranded, and local businesses like hotels, restaurants, and tour operators have seen a sharp drop in bookings and revenue. But this wasn't the worst part. The closure created a ripple effect throughout the local economy. Yellowstone officials are working tirelessly to manage the situation. Park Superintendent Cam Shawley emphasized safety in his statement, acknowledging the disappointment but prioritizing visitors and staff's well-being. The seismic activity is being closely monitored, and experts are assessing the situation. Scientists at the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory have shared their insights. Dr. Michael Polonia, the lead scientist, explained that while Yellowstone is known for its geothermal activity, the recent increase in earthquakes is unusual and concerning. They are conducting thorough investigations to understand the underlying causes and potential risks. But this wasn't the worst part. The uncertainty keeps everyone on edge. Dr. Polonia also addressed fears of a possible volcanic eruption, noting that while the rise in seismic activity is significant, it doesn't necessarily mean an eruption is imminent. However, they are not taking any chances and are taking all necessary precautions. Officials and scientists are urging the public to stay informed and follow safety guidelines. But what's the history of earthquakes in Yellowstone? Looking back might help us navigate these unpredictable times. One major earthquake occurred in 1959, known as the Hebgen Lake earthquake. This powerful 7.3 magnitude quake struck just outside the park on August 17th, causing significant damage and creating Quake Lake from a landslide. Another notable event was the 1985 earthquake swarm, where more than 3,000 earthquakes shook the area over 3 months. This swarm, though mostly made up of small quakes, provided valuable data that helped researchers understand Yellowstone's complex seismic nature. But this wasn't the worst part. The swarm's intensity reminded everyone of Yellowstone's volatile geology. Let's dive deeper into Yellowstone's shaking ground. Rumblings below. The Yellowstone seismic surge. More recently, from 2008 to 2009, the Yellowstone Lake seismic swarm saw over 900 earthquakes, the strongest being a 4.1 magnitude quake. This event drew attention because it occurred near the supervolcano's magma chamber, raising fears of volcanic activity. However, scientists concluded the swarm was likely due to moving hydrothermal fluids rather than magma. Comparing current seismic activity with historical data reveals some important insights. Normally, Yellowstone experiences between 1,500 and 2,500 earthquakes per year, usually small and unnoticed. But the recent surge in seismic activity is highly unusual, pointing to a potentially dangerous escalation that could have deeper implications. In 1 week, Yellowstone National Park recorded over 500 earthquakes, much more than the usual yearly average. This big jump has worried geologists and park officials. In the past, earthquakes in Yellowstone have caused different levels of damage. For example, the Hebgen Lake earthquake caused a lot of damage to roads and buildings, while the 1985 swarm caused very little physical damage. These events are very important for future studies. The earthquake swarm from 2008 to 2009 didn't cause major changes in the park's landscape or operations, but scientists still keep a close watch on the seismic activity. They want to know if the recent increase in earthquakes means a big geological change or just a temporary situation. It's important to look at not just the number of earthquakes, but their strength and history too. The earthquakes at Yellowstone are caused by the movement of the Earth's crust, volcanic activity, and interactions with hydrothermal systems. This creates a very complex and active environment beneath the park. But this isn't the worst part. Compared to past events, the recent earthquakes seem to be happening more often and in clusters, which makes people wonder about the underlying reasons. In 2017, during the Maple Creek swarm, Yellowstone had over 2,400 earthquakes in just a few months. This was one of the biggest swarms in recent times, but didn't lead to any volcanic eruptions. Scientists use the data from these events to improve their models of Yellowstone's seismic activity and make better predictions for the future. The earthquake on June 20th, with a magnitude of 4.6, was the biggest since the 1959 Hebgen Lake earthquake. This suggests that something might be changing in the region's seismic behavior. The quick succession of these tremors indicates a lot of stress within the Earth's crust, which could be a sign of other major changes coming. To really understand why Yellowstone is having so many earthquakes, it's important to know the park's geology. Yellowstone is famous for its wildlife and beautiful scenery, but it's also a geological wonder. It's on top of one of the world's most active volcanic areas, centered on the Yellowstone caldera. This massive volcanic crater was formed by a series of huge eruptions over the last 2.1 million years. The caldera, often called a supervolcano, is about 30 miles wide and 45 miles long, formed by three huge eruptions: the Huckleberry Ridge eruption 2.1 million years ago, the Mesa Falls eruption 1.3 million years ago, and the Lava Creek eruption 640,000 years ago. These eruptions spread ash and volcanic material over much of North America and changed the landscape dramatically. Now, let's explore the park's incredible hot springs and geysers. Yellowstone's hidden fury. Yellowstone's geothermal features are truly amazing. The park has over 10,000 thermal features like geysers, hot springs, mud pots, and steam vents. These are all due to the heat from the Yellowstone hotspot, a column of hot material rising from deep within the earth. Geysers are perhaps the most iconic. The most famous one, Old Faithful, erupts regularly, shooting water up to 185 feet in the air every 90 minutes. This happens because of a unique underground system where water heated by volcanic activity builds up steam pressure until it erupts. Hot springs are another big attraction in Yellowstone's geothermal landscape. The Grand Prismatic Spring, with its bright colors, is the largest hot spring in the U.S. and the third largest in the world. The blue, green, yellow, and orange colors come from different types of bacteria that live in the spring's varying temperatures. Mud pots are acidic hot springs with limited water, making boiling cauldrons of mud and clay. Steam vents, or fumaroles, are openings that release steam and gases, adding to the park's geothermal diversity. Yellowstone's frequent earthquakes happen because it's on top of a hot spot where heat from deep within the earth rises to the surface. This intense heat melts rocks in the mantle, creating magma that moves upward and interacts with the earth's crust. This movement causes earthquakes. As the magma rises, it puts pressure on the rocks, causing them to crack and shift. This generates seismic waves, which we feel as earthquakes. These can range from tiny, barely noticeable shakes to bigger, more disruptive events. The Yellowstone Volcano Observatory provides valuable insights into these processes. They monitor seismic activity, ground deformation, and gas emissions to understand the Yellowstone caldera better. Their research shows that the park experiences between 1,000 and 2,500 earthquakes each year, most of which are too small to feel. This ongoing study is crucial for understanding and preparing for future geological events at Yellowstone. Recently, there have been more earthquakes in Yellowstone, and scientists and officials are looking closely at what this could mean. It's important to predict future events to be ready for what might happen. The increasing number and strength of earthquakes in the park are causing worries about long-term geological dangers. These earthquakes not only pose an immediate threat, but also could harm the park's infrastructure, like roads and buildings. For instance, the 4.6 magnitude earthquake on June 20th shows that bigger quakes could happen and cause significant damage. This could lead to landslides, especially in the park's mountainous areas, which are dangerous for visitors and staff. Another big risk is the chance of hydrothermal explosions. These happen when superheated water underground quickly turns to steam, causing a violent explosion. Yellowstone's geysers and hot springs are powered by these underground water systems. More earthquakes could unsettle these systems and lead to explosive events. While rare, these hydrothermal explosions can be very destructive, creating craters and hurling rocks and debris over large areas. And there's always the concern about a volcanic eruption. Yellowstone is known for its supervolcano. Even though a massive eruption is very unlikely soon, even a smaller volcanic event could be serious. It could send ash and gases into the air, affecting air quality and possibly disrupting flights across North America, posing risks to people and property. Experts from the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory and other geological institutions keep a close watch on the situation. Dr. Michael Poland, a leading scientist, has given insights into the current activity. While the recent rise in earthquakes is unusual, it's important to remember that Yellowstone's volcanic system is always active. The chance of a huge eruption is very low, but smaller volcanic or hydrothermal events could still happen. Next, we'll see how these natural events impact park safety and wildlife. Tools and tales of seismic prediction. Dr. Poland and his team use many tools to predict future seismic activity, like tomography, ground deformation measurements, and gas emissions. Monitoring is crucial to understand the volcano's current state. Recent data show that magma is moving beneath the surface, causing the ground to rise and more earthquakes. However, this doesn't mean an eruption is imminent. But there's more to consider. Predictions about future earthquakes also rely on historical data and models. Looking at past seismic activity helps estimate the chances of future events. The recent swarm of earthquakes is similar to past swarms, suggesting that we might see more quakes, but not necessarily bigger ones. Public communication and preparedness are key to handling these risks. The National Park Service and local authorities have emergency plans ready for various situations, from evacuations to fixing damaged infrastructure. Visitors should stay informed about current conditions and follow safety guidelines from park officials. A major earthquake in Yellowstone could severely affect tourism, which is a crucial part of the area's economy. Humans have changed animal habitats in many ways. Sometimes, these changes help animals, but often they cause harm. Animals may need to move to new places because of these changes, which can be good or bad depending on the animal and the habitat change. For example, earthquakes can disrupt the migration of animals like elk and bison in Yellowstone National Park. These animals move with the seasons, and when earthquakes change the land, it affects their access to food and water, impacting their health and survival. But that's not the worst part. Researchers noticed big changes in the park's ecosystem after the 1988 wildfires, which burned nearly a third of it. While the fires seemed devastating at first, they eventually led to a healthier and more diverse environment. The fires cleared out old forests, letting sunlight reach the ground and helping new plants grow. This new growth provided food and shelter for various animals, showing how nature can bounce back and adapt. Another interesting change is how Yellowstone responds to geothermal energy changes. Earthquakes can affect geysers and hot springs by shifting underground water and pressure. This can change the way geysers erupt, impacting the tiny organisms and plants that live in these unique environments. In some places, geysers become more active, while others may stop, leading to changes in the local ecosystem. Yellowstone National Park has strong safety measures to handle these changes and keep everyone safe. Because the park sits on an active volcanic system, it needs a solid plan for earthquakes. The Yellowstone Volcano Observatory has a network of seismographs, GPS stations, and other tools to monitor the park. These devices collect data on ground movements, volcanic activity, and gas emissions in real time, which scientists analyze to detect any changes and provide early warnings. To keep visitors safe, the park has several measures in place. Information about potential hazards is shared through signs, brochures, and rangers who explain what to do during an earthquake. Visitors are advised to move to open areas away from geothermal features to avoid falling debris. Regular training and emergency drills help park staff prepare for earthquakes, ensuring they know how to evacuate people and provide first aid during emergencies. The park has emergency response teams ready with specialized equipment to handle search and rescue operations and medical emergencies. Over the years, investments in seismic monitoring technology have improved Yellowstone's ability to detect and respond to earthquakes. The Yellowstone Observatory has upgraded its seismographs to more advanced and sensitive ones, capable of detecting even the smallest tremors. Satellite technology has also enhanced the tracking of ground movements, giving scientists a clearer picture of seismic activity. Now, we face the human side of Yellowstone's changes, beneath Yellowstone. A key advancement is the use of interferometric synthetic aperture radar, which uses satellite radar to measure ground deformation over time. This helps detect slow ground movements that might indicate volcanic pressure buildup. By combining satellite data with ground data, scientists can create more accurate models of what's happening below the surface. Communication has also improved, with alerts and updates quickly shared with park officials, emergency responders, and the public through social media, park websites, and direct channels. This ensures everyone gets clear and accurate information to make informed decisions and take appropriate actions. Lately, there have been some big changes that have left many people frustrated and disappointed. One major cause is the closure of Yellowstone Park. This famous tourist spot usually attracts millions of visitors each year. But now, with the sudden shutdown, many tourists have had to cancel their vacations. They plan to relax and enjoy time with friends and family, but are now stranded. News and social media are buzzing with complaints and stories, using hashtags like #YellowstoneClosure and #VacationRuined to share their frustrations. News channels have been quick to cover the shutdown, providing constant updates and expert opinions. The coverage ranges from simple news reports to detailed analyses of potential risks and reasons behind the park's closure. Some reports focus on the scientific side, explaining the geological events and why the park had to close, helping the public understand the situation better. But the worst part isn't just the scientific side, it's the human impact too. Many stories have highlighted how tourists had to cancel long-awaited trips and how local businesses are struggling due to the drop in tourism. Business owners in towns near Yellowstone, like West Yellowstone and Gardner, are especially worried about the economic impact. For example, John Davis, who owns a hotel in West Yellowstone, said the closure is a huge blow during their busiest season, leading to big financial losses. Restaurant owners, tour operators, and souvenir shop managers feel the same, fearing for their livelihoods. Tourists caught in the middle of this closure have shared their experiences too. Jane and Mark Stevens, a couple from Ohio, were really disappointed. They had planned their trip for over a year. It's disheartening, but we understand the need for safety. We hope to get a refund for our bookings and maybe come back next year, they said. People in the community are showing both understanding and concern. Sarah Johnson, who lives in Gardner, shared, "Yellowstone is a big part of our lives, not just for money, but also for our culture. It's tough to see it close, but we believe it's for the best. But the hardest part might be the uncertainty about the future." Everyone hopes for a quick reopening, but the impact on the community and local businesses will likely last much longer. What do you think about the balance between tourist attractions and local community welfare in crisis situations? Do you think the tourists' interests were handled fairly? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe for more.